Bună dimineața tuturor și bine ați venit la Bursa de Valori București. Ne bucurăm să fim astăzi gazdele unui nou moment important pentru piața noastră de capital, listarea a două noi ETF-uri administrate de InterCapital ETF. Evenimentul de astăzi marchează așadar un pas înainte în maturizarea pieței românești și în creșterea atractivității ei pentru toate categoriile de investitori. Avem alături de noi reprezentanții ai principalelor instituții implicate în acest proces și pe care îi voi invita pe rând să ne împărtășească perspectiva lor asupra acestui moment. Pentru început, îl invit pe domnul Remus Vulpescu, directorul general al Bursei de Valori București.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. We're celebrating something quite meaningful, the launch of two new ETFs that will help Romanian investors access opportunities closer to home across our region. Over the years, we've worked steadily to bring modern investment tools to this market, the kind that investors in other European countries already have. Today is another step in this direction, built on a simple idea: remove the barriers between investors and the markets they want to access. We welcome the listing of the two new ETFs of InterCapital ETF on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, a significant step towards direct access for Romanian investors to regional capital markets. Today's listing reinforces the cross-border access of Central and Eastern Europe's investment landscape by investors. The solid collaboration with InterCapital ETF over time reflects our commitment to broadening the range of investment products available to local investors. With an increasing number of investors on the Romanian capital market, now at 274,000 with a good growth dynamic, we are confident that the new financial instruments will raise interest among investors and will contribute to the ongoing development of the Romanian capital market. The first ETF tracks the Crobex 10 index, Croatia's leading companies. This is a straightforward way to gain exposure to this active market with proven performance. The second focuses on Romanian government bonds in euro, offering an attractive yield while maintaining the safety and liquidity you'd expect from sovereign debt. Our capital market has grown substantially. Our investors deserve access to the same quality of instruments and transparency that exist in more developed markets, and ETFs offer exactly that: simple, cost-efficient, and transparent. An ETF is not simply a basket of stocks. It is a disciplined, transparent, and cost-efficient investment structure. The system handles reinvestment, rebalancing, management, so the investors benefit from pure exposure to the market they wish to access. With these two new additions, we're creating more choices for investors who want to build diversified portfolios without unnecessary complexity. That's really what this is about: providing tools needed to invest with confidence. Thank you for your support, and thank you all for believing in our market.
Mulțumim, domnule Vulpescu. Urmează domnul Alexandru Petrescu, președintele Autorității de Supraveghere Financiară.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's always difficult to follow Remus. He's been basically saying all the words I meant to mention. But I have a particular perspective because HANFA and the Romanian authority are having a special bond. I have a great relationship with Ante Zigman, the president of HANFA, and we work on a variety of projects, mainly centered on the interest of our geography here on Central Eastern Europe. And I meant to be here just to mark this particular event. We obviously, as a regulator, I have an agnostic approach. I can't necessarily compliment InterCapital, but I can say that definitely is a good move. They are great ETFs with a fantastic compilation of assets and indicators. I believe that the analysts, the institutional investors, the physical investors will be obliged to take in consideration macroeconomics of both countries. Croatia has been doing great. They had a fantastic 1st of January 2023 when they marked both entering Euro and Schengen in the very same day. So obviously is a booming market, and Crobex is following that particular positive economic trajectory. On the other hand, we have the ETF compiling the governmental bonds in Romania, euro-denominated. Again, a success story. Obviously, both investment products are having a very strong learning value. And that's very important from our perspectives because we'll bring supplementary layer of understanding the markets and will educate to some respect investors in both countries to look up from their local markets into the region. And that's what we want in Europe, a strong capital market at the end of the day. So let me congratulate all of you for the initiative, and I can only hope for the best. Thank you.
Mulțumim, domnule președinte. Now I will switch to English and invite Mr. Creso Vurnicic, Chairman of the Board of Directors of InterCapital ETF, the asset manager of the two ETFs listed today.
Happy to be here again to announce two new ETFs. So, distinguished guests, friends from the Bucharest Stock Exchange, colleagues from the regulatory community, and fellow investors. It's a true pleasure to be here today. We are not listing just two new ETFs. We are taking another step towards a more connected, accessible, and mature regional market. Let me start with a little bit of context. Our region's capital markets are small, very small compared to Western Europe. The free float market cap of our exchanges, Croatia, Slovenia, Romania, is a fraction of what you see in France or Germany, for example. Daily trading volumes, often just a few million euros. In some other regional markets, it's even less. Liquidity is limited. Access is complicated, but that doesn't mean opportunity is missing. Quite the opposite. The fundamentals are strong, the economies are growing, and investors are looking for efficient ways to participate. What's missing is infrastructure, the tools that make investing simple, transparent, and scalable, and that's exactly where ETFs come in. Globally, the trend is quite clear. ETFs have reshaped the investment landscape in the United States. For more than a decade, money has been flowing out of mutual funds and into ETFs every single year. Passive investing now makes up more than half of all funds assets worldwide. And Europe is following the same path. In 2024 alone, European ETF inflows reached a record of 170 billion euros. The paradox is that only about a quarter of those assets are actually invested in Europe itself. So while European investors are embracing ETFs, they're not yet using them enough to invest in their own markets. That's a gap, and it's also an opportunity for local and regional ETF providers like us to give basically European investors an opportunity to invest in European markets and get European exposure. When we first launched our first ETFs in Zagreb 5 years ago, we are actually celebrating the fifth anniversary next week. We had a simple mission, and that was to make Southeastern European markets investable again. Since then, we've built a full range of ETFs covering Croatian, Slovenian, and Romanian equities, Romanian euro-denominated bonds, and a euro money market ETF. They're all UCITS compliant, transparent, and liquid. They are listed today at 3 stock exchanges, Zagreb, Ljubljana, and Bucharest, hopefully more of them to come in the future. And they include around 150 million euros in total assets. These assets continue to grow both in size and obviously the ETFs are growing in relevance. A significant portion of our investors are retail. That tells us something important, that ETFs are not just institutional tools, they are a way to bring individual investors back to the market. Liquidity of these ETFs confirms the story. On Zagreb Stock Exchange, for example, our first listing venue, they account for over 10% of the total equity trading volume, and this volume is continuing to grow. As far as Romania also holds a special place in this story. It's one of the largest and most dynamic economies in the region in Central Eastern Europe. The capital market here has made remarkable progress since the great financial crisis, and big steps like inclusion to the emerging market status are still to come. So we are definitely very proud that InterCapital was the first to bring Romanian exposure to a broader regional audience through the InterCapital Bet ETF, through our listings in Croatia and in Slovenia, and today we are taking a step further by listing 2 new ETFs on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. As mentioned before, the Romanian euro-denominated government bond ETF and the Croatian equity ETF. They form a sort of a natural investment bridge where Romanian investors can now easily invest in Croatian equities and also access their own government bond market through a simple, liquid, euro-denominated format. Our vision is that regional products should be locally available. Investors shouldn't have to look abroad to invest in opportunities that are next door. They're not just another product, they're basically a platform for access. For investors, they mean lower costs, they mean daily liquidity, they mean instant diversification. For markets, they bring more trading activity, visibility, and a deeper liquidity profile. For regulators and exchanges, they create efficient, transparent vehicles and help grow the market without reinventing the wheel, to put it like that. That's why I like to say that ETFs are a development tool and not just a financial instrument. Having said that, we're only at the beginning of this journey. We can already see the outlines of a true regional ETF ecosystem where investors can move seamlessly between Croatian, Slovenian, Romanian exposures, in the future other regional countries as well, just as easily as they would in Paris or Frankfurt or Amsterdam or any of the developed European exchanges. Our ambition is to keep building that ecosystem to offer products that are institutional in quality but simple enough for everyone to use. We want every investor in Romania, from pension funds to individual savers, to have world-class ETF access right here on their own exchange. So I would say that today is more than a ceremony, it's a sort of a symbol of cooperation between our markets, of growing access for investors, and of the belief that the region deserves the same investing tools as any other part of the world. So on behalf of the entire team at InterCapital ETF, I thank all the partners that made this whole process possible, and we are excited to keep building together, and we're just getting started. Thank you very much.
Unul dintre ETF-urile listate astăzi, după cum ați auzit, are ca temă investițiile în titlurile de stat românești, o categorie de instrumente tot mai căutată de investitori. De aceea îl invit acum pe domnul Ștefan Anu, directorul general al Trezoreriei.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here again. First of all, congrats a lot to InterCapital for having this initiative to diversify these CTFs, these instruments to our market. Then to the Bucharest Stock Exchange for reaching out this type of initiatives and brokers and the initiators of these very useful instruments, and of course for FSA for supporting generally these initiatives. I would say that we are very happy to see particularly the second instrument, because it offers actually, it's completing actually the spectrum of investment that are related to the govies, to the local investors, because as you said, it's important for the locals not necessarily looking abroad to invest. And we all know, including myself here, that we like ETFs, so these are very nice instruments. You get an exposure to a wider spectrum of instruments. And of course, when they are, like classified and, you want to really get an exposure, and honestly speaking, I see potential return in this instrument, knowing, and actually observing the latest developments and knowing the trajectory we all aim for the future. And of course, beyond Fidelis, beyond the RomGBs, beyond Romanis, we have this instrument that offers basically this possibility to investors to get exposure not necessarily on one ISIN, but on the government, basically on the sovereign itself. Moreover, I mean, when it comes to Romani, for example, which is going to be the support of this instrument, when we as an issuer, when we go to the market, of course, we usually go in an oversubscription type, most of the times we have oversubscription. Then usually in the allocation, we are favoring big real money accounts. So basically the retail investors, or let's say smaller investors, they are suffering more in the allocation, particularly when it's oversubscribed. Therefore, this is also a nice instrument for them to make it up and to get exposure, although they cannot get exactly linked to the primary market, or let's say in the secondary market in the aftermath of the issuance. So for all these reasons, I think that's a very nice initiative. Really, congrats for that, and looking forward for more. Thank you.
I'm now inviting Mr. Divo Politica, member of the Board of Directors of InterCapital ETF, to talk to us about the new products listed today and how they can create new opportunities for local investors. Mr. Politica, you have the floor.
Hello everyone from my side as well. Thank you for being here. Unlike Krešo, who has presented a more general strategy of what we do, my task today is to present the exact two ETFs. So if at any point you also have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. We were talking about the Romanian bonds now, so I'm going to start with the other one, the Croatian ETF, and then at the end I'm going to come back and follow up on what Mr. Nanu said before. The Croatian ETF is a continuation of what we have already brought to the BVB before. So our strategy was to track the index, the main index of a stock exchange, similar to what we did with the BET ETF in Romania, or the Slovenian SBI Top, which is also listed on the BVB right now. A bit of a general context about Croatia. You'll see even with the composition of the ETF that it is different to what the local investors here in Romania are used. The economy in general, if we talk about GDP per capita, is somewhat higher, but we could say similar to Romania. So it's a country that is still hoping to do a bigger leap towards the EU averages. However, if you look at what the country has been achieving and what is being expected for the next couple of years, you'll see that unlike Romania, where I guess you are very familiar with the current situation, there are some challenges ahead. Croatia looks much smoother, I would say. Although there is the double deficit as well, so the fiscal deficit and the current account balance deficit, it's much smaller, as you can see, and the GDP growth actually allows for Croatia to maintain or even lower the debt to GDP ratio. So in that regard, I think we can agree that in terms of Croatia, the macro risks are much less shown at this point. Moving to what the index itself holds, so these are the 10 largest companies on the Zagreb Stock Exchange. If we take into account that one group called Končar has two kinds of shares there, we could say that there are 9 issuers on the exchange. Maybe more important to look at it through sectors than individual names. You can see here that Croatia is quite different compared to Romania, for example. In Romania, where you have mostly energy and financials through banks, Croatia is mostly industrials, foods, telecoms, and tourism as big economic branches in our country. You'll see on the following slides another difference between Croatia and Romania, which is the multiples at which it is traded, and that too can be to a large point explained through the slide which we see here. You'll see that Croatia is traded at higher price to earnings, offers lower dividends. The reason behind this, again, stands in the sectorial composition of the index. The industrials, especially represented by Končar here, are an, I would say, extremely growing part of the index. Končar, for example, since 2019, so before the COVID crisis up until today, managed to increase their EBITDA by more than 15 times. Earnings grew a lot more, and the growth trajectory is still there. The reason they are able to do this is that they are exposed to the greenification trends, electrification. So what they do is they offer products and solutions for companies, governments, cities, and so on, to either generate energy, transmit energy. They are also into things like building trains and so on. So this is the part of the index that is very focused on growth, and typical to that, they are not giving a lot of dividends. They are investing into further growth and so on. So the dividends of this part are very low. On the other hand, we have what we can call defensive sectors. So this is foods and telecoms to a large part. And this part of the index is paying a lot of dividends. Telecom, for example, is giving 100%. And the yield that we have here, the dividend yield, is about 4%. So this would be somewhat similar to Romania. Although keep in mind that if you are paying 100% dividends and this is 4% yield, this also means that you're at a 20 times price to earnings ratio. So this is what you get through investing in the Croatian ETF. If we look at the history a little bit, since we started this ETF, it started roughly 5 years ago. We are just a couple of days shy of that. We can see that in that period, generally the emerging and the frontier markets had a nice growth of 30, 50, 60%. But as you can imagine from everything that's white in this graph, a lot of other markets performed better. Europe in general gave some 70 to 80% return. The US is above 100, either if we look at the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ. This is all in euros. Poland joins them. Next, we have Croatia, which has obviously in this period been able to beat, as you can see, both the US and Europe in general. Croatia is in this way kind of a bridge between what we would call region and the developed world, because as you can see, the rest of the region also performed very well. Hungary and Greece had an amazing return. However, the ones that really beat pretty much everything are Romania and Slovenia. The red ones are, as of this point, what we offer on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. So as you can see, some of the highest growers in the previous period, which by itself doesn't mean that this trend is going to continue. However, we have other reasons to be positive about them. This is how the development of the Croatian index looked in this period ever since we started the ETF. As you can see, it has been, we could say, pretty much a growing line, very much pushed by Končar, as I said, so their earnings growth has been driving this. Among other companies, companies like the Croatian Telecom or Podravka, which are also generous dividend givers, attributed to this total return. You can compare here what I said before in terms of price earnings. So here we compare how much you pay today for each euro of earnings that a companies within these indices give. As expected, probably the most expensive ones, according to this index, are the ones in the US. This is primarily so because of their IT industry and the AI boom that we are having at this point. Then you can see you have Europe, for example, Croatia somewhere in between, and the rest of the region, Slovenia, Romania, are somewhat below that. In terms of dividends, a similar story, although here you want the number to be higher, so we can say that the cheaper ones are the ones to the left, Romania, Poland, Slovenia, and so on, and the more expensive ones are on the right, such as the US. Talking about the ETF itself, in these 5 years, we managed to grow the asset under management to about 14 million euros. It is at this point our fourth largest ETF out of the 5, beaten for now by both Slovenia and Romania. However, the AUM isn't something that should be a concern to retail investors. It's mostly about institutionals who have some kind of limits on how much they can invest in a single ETF. Retail should be more concerned about our ability to track the index. And as you can see here, it's pretty much the same throughout our ETFs. So Croatia, same as Slovenia and Romania, has a total expense ratio of about 1% annually. And you can see the example here that it's successfully tracking the index. Just lastly, a couple of notes. The ticker you'll be seeing is IC-CRO ETF on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. The dividends, same as in the case of the Romanian ETF, are reinvested. In the case of Croatia, there is no dividend tax being charged to the ETF itself, so you get a full dividend amount this way. The fee structure is the same to what you're used to from us, so 60 basis points, that's 0.6% management fee. Adding other costs, we get to about 1% total expense ratio. As with the Slovenian ETF, our market maker will be InterCapital Securities. So much about the Croatian ETF. As I said, if you have any further questions, I will be available. Moving on to the Romanian bonds one. So unlike the ones that I mentioned before, this was our first officially actively managed ETF, although you'll see that the rules are so strict that it pretty much limits us to what we can invest into. So the actively managed part is just here to save some costs for you and offer higher returns. What has been the main driver of the returns of the Romanian bonds, which in turn are the main driver of the ETF, is especially lately the Romanian economy and you are aware of the fiscal challenges that Romania is facing. So the most important indicator that a lot of investors are looking at right now is the general government balance, so the fiscal gap, let's say so, compared to the GDP. These are the latest European Commission estimates here. They will very soon publish new ones, so maybe the numbers will change somewhat. But depending on which source you look at, still the number is concerning for the moment. The Romanian government, as you know, is doing some measures to reduce this, and hopefully they do a good work, and this pays off in the long term. As you can see here, these are the returns of the Romanian 7-year euro-denominated bond. I put 7 years here because that's the closest to the average of what we have in the ETF, so this very nicely represents our ETF as well. The red line, as you can see, is the return for the Romanian bonds, and the gray area is the spread to Germany. So we can say that this is how much investors think Romania is more risky than Germany in a way. What you can see here is that Romania had relatively low returns in the period up to COVID and up to, let's say, 2021, when we started having, well, a lot of things happened. We had inflation. Very soon we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We had the energy crisis and so on. Ever since that point, the investors started seeing Romania as a much more risky country, and obviously the returns went up. At this point, Romania is, as you will see, the highest yielding euro-denominated bond issuer anywhere in the world. When it comes to the ETF, what it does provide, and you can see here that it does it very well, it offers you actually an instrument to be exposed to the changes of the Romanian yield. So here you'll see that the red line is the Romanian bond yield ever since we introduced the ETF, so a bit more than a year ago. And the dark line is the value of unit of the ETF. As you can see here, in those moments when, so at the beginning of this period, when the yields were going down, the ETF value was growing. Then we had 2024. You probably remember much better than I do. This was the election year in Romania, the beginning of 2025 as well. This is where a lot of uncertainties happened, so the yields went up ever since the end of the election, and especially once the current government started offering the ways to tackle the fiscal deficit. You can see that investors started seeing Romania as much less risky, so the yields went down again, and this is when the value of the ETF recovered and even went beyond the starting value. This is the point that I mentioned before about Romanian yields compared to the other countries. You see the bubbles. The Romanian yield is the highest one, as you can see. At this point, at about 5%, this is again for a 7-year bond, and it's much higher than the peers of, let's say, Hungary or Greece, which are at 2 to 3%. So a lot of room for Romania, hopefully, to move down as well. Coming from Croatia, we've seen something similar with our country. So we remember how yield reduction looks like. Just showing you a bit of history for Croatia. This is our yield, 7 years again, and marking here the point when we joined the Eurozone. Not saying that Romania has to wait for the Eurozone to happen if it ever does, but just saying how how quickly things can change and move once investors change their perception and start seeing your country as someone who can manage itself and its budget. You can see that the Croatian spreads against Germany were rather high at some point, similar to what we have in Romania now. Today, they went significantly down to somewhat less than 50 basis points. If something like this were to happen in Romania, a reduction of the yield to somewhere similar to Croatia, this would mean a one-off gain of about 12% in the ETF value as well. Obviously, then throughout the years, you would continue getting the yield itself. I hope this was clear. Just a couple of technical stuff for the end. The ticker you'll be seeing for this ETF is ICGRO ETF. It's, as I said, investing in Romanian euro-denominated bonds. And this is the part where I said that it's very limited within the prospectus, so we have to keep the maturity between 5 and 10 years. Right now, the average is about 7.5, and this will probably remain there. All the coupons, which we can somehow consider comparable to dividends, what companies pay, are being reinvested. So again, you will not be getting any distributions from the ETF itself. The market maker, InterCapital Securities again. And the last point I would like to make here is that for this ETF until the end of June next year, we'll be lowering the management fee to 0%. So if you remember, this is similar to what we did to the BET ETF when we first introduced that one. We believe that this gives you an opportunity to both earn extra, but also give us an opportunity to actually show that the ETF will be delivering what it is promising without us charging you anything in that period. So 0% management fee. The rest of the costs amount to another about 50 basis points, so the total expense ratio in this period will be about 50 basis. This is all from me, leaving you here with the last slide, which shows all of the ETFs we have right now, their listing places. You see that right now we'll have 4 in Romania with the tickers here and their current sizes. As Krešo said, we hope to grow more and we hope to help you invest and earn money in the future as well. Thank you very much.
Mulțumim tuturor speakerilor pentru intervențiile lor. Urmează acum momentul simbolic al evenimentului, ceremonia Ring the Bell, prin care marcăm oficial listarea noilor ETF-uri InterCapital. So, dear guests, dear speakers, please, the floor is yours, or the bell. Vă mulțumim tuturor că sunteți alături de noi și continuați să ne urmăriți, inclusiv pe conturile de social media ale Bursei de Valori București. Pentru că săptămâna viitoare avem o serie de evenimente pregătite pentru a marca cei 30 de ani de la realizarea primei tranzacții la Bursa de Valori București. Mulțumim!